Hey, Amie.
Yeah, Juan.
Give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to our podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you guys. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. I'm going to give you another reason why it's important to follow us on social media, because we drop these wonderful photos of Amie and I as we're covering the Doyers, and then we get wonderful comments from our listeners who seem to know our personalities pretty well. Shouts out to Oscar, who gave us a caption for one of our pictures that said, "So what Dodger crisis is Amie trying to talk you down from, Juan?" So it is apparent that
the answer is all of them.
It is apparent you are the calm, cool, and collected one on this show, and I am just the crazy one who's always aggravated and just...
It's a choice, my friend. It is a choice.
Long time no see, Amie. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. So I know
I gave you the hook.
Yeah. So I know in our last episode it may have come off as we end the show abruptly. So before we start, this episode is going to be a lot about the Dodgers Alumni Weekend this past weekend. But before we go into that, Amie, is there anything else that you wanted to say that perhaps you didn't get to say on the last episode because I just talk way too much?
We were both talking. Thank you very much. It was an equal effort. No, I think the only thing you and I had kind of been discussing after the fact was that, both of those rookies anticipated, probably Paul Skeens a little bit more built up because, first time all-star starter, this is his first year out. But we had two rookies pitching against each other in that Pirates series. And, Paul Skeens had a rough day. I'll let you recount that. But as we mentioned a couple of times, River Ryan had a rough go of it, having to leave even though he wanted to keep going, and then what ended up being, a UCL strain. So we're still waiting to hear more information on that. But did you want to share anything else about like Paul Skeens' outing or anything?
Well, Paul Skeens gave up the most runs he's given up all season this year. So that was encouraging. I will say this, going into that weekend series, I had that one chalked up as a loss. I was not expecting the Dodgers to be able to hit Paul Skeens.
So just more evidence of just take it one game at a time. Enjoy the baseball, my friend. Enjoy the baseball.
I get it. It's a choice. One of the things we also didn't get a chance to talk about much in that last episode was that Kershaw definitely bounced back from that outing that he had in San Diego. He looked, he went 5, but he was up there. He was competing. He only gave up 1 run to the Phillies. He didn't get much run support. What?
Before you get called out, 4 2/3, almost 5.
Okay, almost 5. Thank
you. I don't want you to go back. Since we're starting from 0.
And as we are recording this, he is pitching game 1 of that series
saw him.
Between the Doyers and the Cerveceros. So far, he's in the bottom of the second, runners in first and second right now. So we don't know how this outing is going to go. Is he going to be able to build? It's going to be an interesting road trip for the Doyers because, they bounce back at home, but they've looked like a different team on the road in the second half of the season. So I'm very curious how this 7-game road trip through Milwaukee and San Luis look. I mean, a Milwaukee team that is only a game and a half behind them for the 2 spot in the National League. Not necessarily even the National. They're like a game and a half because the Phillies and the Doyers are tied for the best record in the National League. So the Cerveceros, quietly but surely, they might end up being the top seed in the NL by the end of this week. So this is a very, very interesting series, I think. And just as I say that, Kershaw just got out of the inning. So 2 scoreless innings so far for Clayton Kershaw and this first opening game against the
And he's at
Cerveceros.
mid-20s pitches because I think my feet is behind yours. So I'm still in the inning right now.
Yeah, so I was very encouraged by the fact that the Doyers were able to sweep the Piratas in response to how they looked against that Phillies team, because I was concerned. I was like, man, it's like they just the Phillies have got their number. I mean, the Phillies have beaten them 5 out of 6 this year, and so hopefully they can finally, they're starting to get healthy again. Mookie, we're going to talk about this more next week. How with Mookie being back. But you're biting your lip at me. Now what?
I'm not gonna say it because then you're gonna be like, oh, we're 6 minutes in, and
Just say it. Just say it. I love it.
well,
I love it.
no, just even so. Okay, so if we dropped 5 to the Phillies, this season, all that matters is, first we got to get to the postseason, and all that matters is what happens there. Nobody's going to be like, well, you got to the postseason, but oh man, those 5 games with the Phillies, I don't know if you deserve to be here. Like we want to win series, we want to win games. I am not making light of that. However, it's the how we get to the end that matters.
Excellent point. So Alumni Weekend, Amie, you were there at Dodger Stadium. There were events every single game this past weekend. So let's start off with Friday with Dusty Baker going into the Legends of Dodger Baseball.
It was really amazing. I was there with my little nephews, my little cousins. We got to watch the game, and it just seeing that ceremony, seeing everybody come up and speak for him. And I guess the whole theme of the weekend, like, because it's alumni, because it's veterans of the game, I think it's something that we don't maybe think about very often, is once these guys leave the game, like, this is something that they've given their whole life to. It's not just their career once they make it to the majors. It was, I think even Matt Kemp said, he's been playing baseball since he was 5, all the way up till now. Like, these events where they get together with people who understand that lifestyle more than we ever could, like, these are probably few and far between. So getting to see Dusty Baker celebrated, have everybody say such nice things about him, and then, go in to play the game, and, we won every single game this weekend. I think that was just a testament to just all the energy that was in the stadium. Did they play it on TV for you guys to be able to see the ceremony ahead of time?
They did play it on Sportsnet LA. One of those things that I find interesting, I like the Legends of Dodger Baseball. I love, for me, I understood it immediately when they did it. It was a way for them to honor Dodger players of the past without putting them in the Ring of Honor, because the Ring of Honor has specific criteria. And that's basically, you got to be a Hall of Famer. They only expect
and Fernando.
And Junior Gilliam.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Junior Gilliam and Valenzuela are the only exceptions up there in the Ring of Honor. But Valenzuela was in the initial class of the Legends of Dodger Baseball. And so when the Dodgers did that, I thought, this is their way of honoring Valenzuela without retiring his number. But I thought, this was really nice because the Yankees have Monument Park out there in center field. And, when we're going to get into Matt Kemp, but Matt Kemp, when we talked to Matt Kemp said that when he first joined the Dodgers, that the organization itself is really big on teaching these players history. And that is an element of baseball that it is about history. So I do love the whole concept of the Legends of Dodger Baseball. I love that they added the jackets this year.
Classy.
There is something about them. I have my own jacket.
It was very Happy Gilmore golf blazer-ish. Like, they've got the blue jacket with the LA on it. I was just like, oh, those are, I want one.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch. Dusty Baker himself said he was surprised that he was actually put into it. And it's funny because he spent 8 years of his career playing for the Dodgers. That's the same number of years that he played with the Atlanta Braves. Like, those are the 2 teams I think that he is most closely associated with in terms of his playing career. He has managerial career. He has that, he's managed a number of teams, but I think in terms of his playing career, he's associated with the Braves and the Dodgers. What I find interesting about these legends of Dodger baseball, I think there's so many candidates that the Dodgers, I think, eventually are going to put in there. I'm fascinated as to how they make the choices, because up until this point, like having Garvey and Newcomb and Valenzuela in that initial class made sense to me. Then the next wave, you had Hershiser, Gibson, and Manny Mota. Those are all very important, But now we're getting into a phase where it's like, okay, how are they going to decide? Because, all right, you put Dusty Baker in and you have Garvey already there. Ron Cey was a huge part of the Dodgers in the 70s and early 80s. Now, I've spoken to Ron Cey in the past. It doesn't seem like he has the greatest relationship with the Dodgers, but he was there in Alumni Weekend. So Eric Karros is a guy that was there on Alumni Weekend. I can see him getting inducted into the Legends of Dodger Baseball. Hideo Nomo was there this weekend. I had a hard time recognizing Hideo Nomo. Did you recognize Hideo Nomo when you were there?
I didn't. I mean, there were a lot of them where I was just like, oh my gosh, where's the seating chart? Because there were so many. But like I think there were 41 that were present. I'm trying to find my list here. Chan Ho Park was there as well.
Yeah, Chan Ho was there. And Steve Sachs was there. Eric Gagne.
I have a
there.
photo. We can do our janky technology. Let's see if I can do it right.
Well, you have a great photo with you and Steve Garvey.
Yes.
Go ahead, tell the story. You were there.
Well, we were there on the field, just covering the team, and Steve Garvey came up. He knew my friend and boss, and so we just got to chatting. All of those guys they're so great. Like they're personable. They're happy to be there. They're happy to be amongst their veteran brethren. Like it was just a really positive day. I have nothing but good things.
I think having the alumni, I like that aspect. I like seeing, because
okay, can you see this on your screen? Because I can't see it on mine. Are you able to?
Yeah. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see the picture of Alumni Weekend of all the Dodger players on the field, former Dodger players. For those of you listening on the podcast, go back and watch the YouTube if you haven't seen this picture. But
or I think we have it posted. The Dodgers have it posted everywhere. Essentially, you've got all of the Dodgers, all 41 of them are there. They're in alphabetical order, so across the multiple generations. And then the front row is going to be the legends of Dodger baseball. So I've got my little pointer here, but we've got Dusty Baker, we've got Oral Hershiser, Manny Mota, Kurt Gibson. Oh my gosh. Why am I blanking? Steve Garvey. I just met him. Jaime Jarrín, you've got Fernando Valenzuela, and then you've got Sandy Koufax.
That's right.
Here is Hideo Nomo, and then so he was on the very, very right in the middle, and then on the opposite side you had Chan Ho Park. So a lot of great guys. Jerry Hairston was there, Eric Gagne, Nomar, like anybody that you would think, you associate with the legends, anybody who could make it, they were there. So
yeah, so I thought that I do like that. I think that's fun. I think those guys themselves, I think, love it. I think they love coming back to the stadium. I think they love being around their former teammates,
just
and
seeing
catching
them
up.
Socialize with each other. Like Tommy John was there, and like I got a really great picture of him and Eric Gagne's kind of crouched down so that they could chat, because Tommy John was in a wheelchair. Our patron musical saint AJ was down there because he was working at the stadium, so he was kind of down there amidst all of them. Like
Hey AJ, get some air conditioning, man. I hope you got air conditioning.
But I mean, he got to be down there working amongst all of them. Like it was one thing to see them from above, but can you imagine being in the thrum of it all? Like everybody's just down there. You saw people hugging, just having conversations. Like just to be a fly on the wall for all of that would have been amazing.
And the same thing that same day that they had all the alumni on the field was the day they put Walter O'Malley in the Ring of Honor. Your thoughts on Walter O'Malley going into the Ring of Honor, Amie?
mean, good for him. He brought the Dodgers to LA. I mean, there was, as we know, even the namesake of our show, like there was a lot of controversy about that, but ultimately it did get the Dodgers here to LA with a lot of help from a lot of other people. So, I mean, I get it. We got to see that. They also recreated the 30 home run club photo with Dusty Baker, Reggie Smith, Ron Say, and Steve Garvey, which was kind of cool. So you get to, if you search online, you can see the original photo, and then you see the one that John Suhu and the rest of us got to take like while they were on the field. It was just really cool to see the history, but also it happening now. So it's not like these guys are forgotten, they're in the past and we're trying to read about them in the book. We had them right in front of us, and we got to see them just ecstatic to be on the field with each other. These are guys who played together or played after each other or knew of each other when they were coming up. It was just a really great feeling.
It was, I will say this about the Walter O'Malley going into the Ring of Honor. I am surprised that it took this long. I mean, this is the guy who brought the Dodgers to Los Angeles. Not only that, I mean, for a good chunk of the Dodgers history, they were owned by one family, so the fact after the O'Malley sold the team, you had Fox and you had McCourt, and then
Your
you have
favorite.
Guggen. Yeah, my favorite. We had Frank McCourt, but then you have Guggen. So I got to tip my hat to Guggenheim. As much as I have issues with some of the things that this current ownership group has done, I want to make sure I give them their flowers with them when they do things the right way. And them putting Valenzuela in the Ring of Honor to me spoke volumes. I think that was very big of them to literally break tradition and make an exception. I thought that was big of them. One of the things that I liked about the ceremony itself was, did you notice the 3 people who unveiled the O'Malley? I thought that was a nice touch. For those who weren't familiar, it was Don Drysdale's wife was one of them. Tommy Lasorda's daughter was and Vin Scully's daughter was the other. So I thought that was really cool. And then in the background, you see Haley.
Yes.
That's a little.
I have her in my picture. Yeah.
That's a little inside joke between Amie and I. So, but I get it, Amie. I do want to acknowledge it does feel a little conflicted, and I wonder if that's why they waited so long to put him in that Ring of Honor. David Vassay started off by saying he was just like, he's a villain in Brooklyn, but he's loved in Los Angeles. And I'm just like, hold up. Not
asterisk.
Yeah, not everybody loves him in Los Angeles. And that's the thing. When he brought up Brooklyn, I can't help and think of those poor people in Brooklyn who got their team taken away from them.
Well, I'm sure Oakland is feeling the same way right now.
Yeah. So that's the sad part, too. And that's why there is, I think, some conflicted feelings with him being up there because of the fact that, people lost their homes. And while Walter O'Malley is not the only villain in that story, there are plenty of villains in terms of city officials that contributed to that. I do think they could
another unofficial book club book, Stealing Home by Eric Nasbaum. Great book about that, because you get the whole history of what led up to it and how Dodger Stadium got there, and you get the whole background on the families and whatnot. So if you haven't read Stealing Home yet, excellent book. Add it to our unofficial book club.
Yeah. So for everyone that always says, get over Chavez Ravine, it's easy for me to say to get over Chavez Ravine. My house wasn't the one that was taken, away. So I respect those people that were impacted by this. And I also just feel like probably there might have been something that could have been done there where they said, okay, maybe the Dodgers could have played a bigger role so it wasn't as ugly. But who knows? It's kind of like the television thing that we went through, where it's like the Dodgers maybe could have gone to Spectrum and said, all right, we're going to give a little bit of money back on this deal. Just make sure everybody in Los Angeles can get the channel. That didn't happen. So that's one of those things where I don't know if ownership is going to hit 1,000 all the time. They're going to have their bumps, but I did find it interesting. It's 2024, and we're barely getting an acknowledgement of the O'Malley family in that stadium. I'm sure there's probably like little plaques or something around. Do you know?
I don't. I honestly, for me, it was really neat to see Peter O'Malley speak and speak about some of the history. Obviously, what we know about Chavez Ravine was left out. I understand why. But I think that's also where we educate ourselves on those things, right? Like we make it a point to remember the history. He did say something about the stadium is 62 years old. You know, some of the people there are younger and they're not going to remember when the stadium first opened, or they're not going to remember the history or even the players that were on the field, and that he won't be around when the stadium hits its 100th year anniversary. And just, you know, how much will it have changed then? Who will we remember at that point? And it was just a reminder that history, like time in itself, passes so quickly. And just, I think that's just, for me, it's another reminder of like every game is precious. Every time we all get to be in the stadium and have those shared moments, whether it's, you know, Freddie coming back or collectively being upset that, you know, River Ryan is hurt, Brusdar Gradall is hurt. Those are our players. Like we are all sharing those moments. These are moments that we all collect. I think I heard, I think it was Dave Stiles on the radio the other day saying something about like when you're listening to the radio, we're all listening to the same song at the same time versus streaming. That's us in the stadium. We're listening, we're seeing, we're watching all of these games happen in real time together. We have all those shared memories. We may not see it the same way, but I can bring up a moment like we constantly, we've brought it up a couple times. I think it was Tatis who hit that ball over the pavilion. You were on, you know, the third base side. I was in the pavilion. Like we all have our memories, but we were there. We were there together, but separate. Like it just, I don't know. This is what I love about things like Alumni Weekend reminding us of this stuff.
Shouts out K Earth 101 and dreamy Dave Stiles there. We give him a reference.
Post it.
So that was Saturday, and then Sunday, Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp signed a 1-day contract so he could retire as a Dodger. And not only that, they also had his bobblehead. But before the game, there was a press conference with Matt Kemp. And Amie, you got to spend a lot of time with your boy Matt Kemp, didn't you? Like you guys are best friends now, aren't you?
Well, you
like
you were sitting right next to me. I don't know why
I think I was
singled out.
I was there to witness the moment where Matt Kemp and Amie looked at each other and just went, "Did we just become best friends?" Because Amie and Matt Kemp,
sure that didn't happen.
Amie and Matt Kemp bonded over his crochet hat, and shouts out to the Dark Phil Knight.
It's Phil Knight, the Dark Phil Knight out of New York, who creates these hats. And the reason I asked, I am a crocheter, so I crochet blankets, beanies, whatnot. But my best friend, she puts me to shame. And I knew once she saw that hat, she would want to know where he got it. And sure enough, we talked today and she was like, "Oh yeah, I saw it last night." And I was trying to figure out how he would have, how it would have been stitched together. And I'm like, that's why I asked him. I am a shy person by nature, but I made sure, hey, where did you get your hat? Blush. So
what did you see from him yesterday or on Sunday?
He just seemed full of joy. And I think that goes back to what we started this episode with. Like I can't imagine how hard it is for these guys to leave the game behind. He even said part of the reason he hadn't come to Dodger Stadium so much was it was hard to be here because he wasn't playing. And I'm sure that aspect is there, whether you've retired or are going to retire from the game, or even you got to think about some of those players that get traded away. Like this organization is pretty great. For all the naysayers out there, the Dodgers organization is top tier. And call me a homer, whatever, that's fine. I'm a homer. But it would be hard to leave this game. And I feel like because he got to come back, he was very invigorated by that. Got to see old friends. We got to see him share moments with Dave Vassay, just all the people on the field. He was just so exuberant. It was infectious. Like he was just smiling all day.
Yeah, that's to me, I think what really came, because he talked about this. He got an opportunity that a lot of Dodger players don't get. And you had mentioned, when players get traded away, And he talked about it. It's very rare that once you get traded away, that you come back. And
Kike.
Kike now he's done it. I don't know how
This is
many
his
times.
this is his third time, which
Yeah,
how hard is that though to get traded away and then it's dangled and then you get to come back and then you get traded away and then it's like, wait, could I get to come back again? Like
yeah. Not only that, but your number gets retired while you're gone. It's like I can't even wear my number anymore. But with Matt Kemp, he had the opportunity because he had great seasons for the Dodgers, and Kershaw mentioned when he was talking about Matt Kemp about you're the real MVP that season, and he came very close. Now we're talking about Shohei. I think it's a given. We all think Shohei's going to join 40. Matt Kemp came really close
mhm.
to joining an elite club in the 40-40. He was one home run short. And what I had totally forgotten about Amie was that season, they only played 161 games. They didn't play 162. If he had one extra game,
And that's what he said.
Yeah.
He said if he'd had that one game, he would have like total beast mode. Like he would have hit another.
He
home
said
run.
he was hot. He totally would have gotten it. And he would have been in 40-40. And so I think when he got traded away, and then, I mean, he did an interview earlier this year talking about how he wasn't happy in San Diego and Santiago. And so what I really thought was interesting, what he said on Sunday, is something that I think you can hear from a lot of players, is that I wish I would have lived more in the moment.
Mhm.
And I think that's a lesson that we all should learn, because I hear that too often. Like when people look back and they go, oh, I wish I really would have enjoyed that more. And maybe it is, you just take it for granted. Why do you have a mustache? What's going on here?
I'm just thinking of like, I don't know, watching a game at a time, just being in that game.
Because it's what?
Baseball.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we got it.
Baseball.
It's baseball.
But he did, and that was something that was very impactful when I heard it too, about live in the moment, enjoy that game, because I felt it. I don't know if you feel this on your side, but he was saying like they rush from game to game. He might go do a charity thing and do that, and he's in the moment in it, but it's just so fast, and he realizes how much he did accomplish back then, but he didn't feel it in the moment. I feel like that's sometimes, at least me, like working my regular job and then, you know, getting to do baseball or getting to be a fan and go to games. And then we do this podcast during the week, and it's a lot. It's the prep. It's the making sure you watch all the games so that you're ready. I love every minute of it, but it's a lot. And so it's a good reminder to stop and like, I get to talk to you every week for 2 hours. You and I get to go back and forth about baseball, and we both have very different opinions. And I appreciate, thank you, Matt Kemp, for bringing this up, but I appreciate that you and I can have these conversations and have differences of opinion. And our listeners might not agree with either of us, but we get to have this dialogue about this game that we all love in different ways. And it was good to see him on the field. We got to see him with his daughter, with his family. And just even seeing him walk around, he walked up and he hugged all the clubbies and the trainers that were out on the field, and then hugged all the players before he came in. And he said he was going to wear his sunglasses that day because he didn't want to cry, but if he did, then nobody would be able to see it. And I may or may not have gotten a picture of him.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Amie, because that is something that I don't, a lot of people didn't see. We got to see it because we were in the press box, but he literally, like, he remembered all. There was the camera guy. Do you know what his name is? The camera guy who
I don't. He's there pretty frequently, though. No,
yeah,
he's a lovely individual.
But like Matt Kemp, like the camera guy turned around, looked at him, and Matt Kemp came over, gave him a hug. Exactly. And I know he went into the booth to say hi to Severe, but it was like, and he joked around, like when he was walking, and there was like literal staff, like he would walk in and goes, "You still work here?" You know.
Well, and he was sitting behind us, and it's like, all right, what are you guys talking about now? Like, he was very personable, but he also said it in our presser too. He was like, I don't just miss the game and miss the players. I miss all the people that made this go, the trainers, the staff, the people who prepared our meals. He's like, those people make the game go. And I agree with him. That's something I feel like we have our people that we see every week. And it it makes me so happy because all of these people make this game go, not just the players on the field.
Yeah. So that was very interesting. And like I had said, in 2018, he got to come back, and he had a great season, in 2018. And I mean, it wasn't as good as his previous, seasons, but it was almost like he was able to come back, and I don't want to say make things right, but he got an opportunity to end his story with the Dodgers in a very have a great ending, so to speak. And the fact that the Dodgers were willing to go ahead and do this, because I can't remember. I know they've done this in the past, but I don't remember it being as public as it is for because I know they did it for Hershiser, because I know a lot of people don't want to remember this, but Hershiser played for the Giants, and it was ugly. It was ugly when he played for the Giants. But after that, after the Giants released him, the Dodgers did sign him one day, just like Matt Kemp, so he could retire as a Dodger.
And he did get asked, why hasn't he retired before this? And he was like, he kind of wanted to do it on his own terms, wasn't ready yet. And now he's ready, and he gets to do it. Like you said, it was very public, but it wasn't just the fans in the stands that got to see him. You saw it across social media. It's Matt Kemp Day. Break out your Matt Kemp. You'd see pictures with people in their Matt Kemp stuff. And he was a beloved player on this team. He is a beloved player from this team. And I do appreciate this ownership group acknowledging that, but also giving that to the fans. Don't just do it in private. Like, give us something like this.
Yeah, and look, I know I understand I am the Prince of Darkness, but I do
you
want
wearing black this weekend.
No, you were.
That was astutely pointed out. It was hot.
You are the Princess of Darkness, or a big Johnny Cash fan. We just don't know. But I
was absorbing all the color. That's what I was doing.
As critical as I can be of this organization, at the same time, like I said, I do want to make sure that I am fair and give them their flowers when they do things that I think, and again, they don't have to do this, but you could see that I think the alumni were really having a great time this weekend. Like I said, Dusty Baker, I think, was surprised that he was put in there. But he was very happy, and to be able to see up close how happy it made Matt Kemp to come back. I think it was a very successful weekend.
And
I will say this:
they don't get to see each other very often because life happens. So this was their opportunity to all glom together.
And I wonder if now they are starting some sort of tradition, Amie, where next year during Alumni Weekend, are we going to see somebody go into the Legends of Dodger Baseball, and maybe someone else gets to retire as a Dodger? This may be a one-off, but I do think
I just enjoyed seeing the history and the people there. So if that's all we get, especially because we're not getting to play the alumni game,
it's been a while, since they've done the alumni. Yeah. I missed the Hollywood Stars game. I wish they would bring back the Hollywood Stars game.
No, I just liked seeing them all talk smack before the game, and then
there's a lot of smack talking this weekend. There was a lot of smack that did not go away. They may have retired from the game, but the smack talk has not been retired. That's for sure.
It was a pretty great weekend. If you guys get a chance, if they do it again, I mean, they always have something alumni related, but if you guys get a chance to go down to something like that, it's awesome. Or catch it on, the behind the scenes with the Dodgers.
I'm sure it's going to be all over Backstage Dodgers.
Backstage,
They're going to be interviewing a lot of the alumni. But yeah, I thought it was a successful weekend. I think they set the bar high for them.
Well, we've had them in the past. This was just the most memorable one I've seen in a while. I know we're up against time. So the only other thing I did want to mention on here was Tim Neverett, and they've posted this before. I know we've seen people post all online. I've done it myself, like, hey, I'm listening on my radio at the beach and whatnot. But a fan had posted that they were listening to the game from their transistor radio. Rick Monday had talked about this a couple weeks ago. And so Tim Neverett shared it saying, like, I'd love to see more people doing this. And, I posted, some of our listeners posted, but like when I'm in my seat, I've got my transistor radio. Like, to me, that's like the only way to listen to it. So I'm just curious, any of our listeners, do you guys enjoy listening to the game that way? Are you guys at the game just kind of doing your own thing? Like, who else kind of goes back old school, back to like some more of that Vin Scully, like listening to the broadcast as the game's going, because it was just really neat to see everybody sound off on social media.
That's right. Inquiring minds want to know. Any last words, Amie, before we wrap things up?
That was it. Transistor radios, man.
All right. So if you've been listening on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media. On X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. You can see the photos of Amie and I in action. One of the photos we did not discuss is how I am a chef, especially when it comes to Sundays. I did not get a yes, chef. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I mean, I did bring your coffee cake for you, and he decided to crumble it over his soft serve. So it's an acquired thing.
What? I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was a brilliant choice.
I mean,
Coffee cake and soft serve?
To each their own.
That's right. Thank you. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode. Nos despedimos. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.